Morning, everybody. It's all happening Friday morning. You've made it to the end of the week, and the beginning of September is behind you. So now all the pressure's off, except all those debit orders that come off. So actually, the pressure's on. You have to keep working this month just to try and fill up what you've just lost from all the debit orders. Tell me it's not the greatest. It is the weekend, baby. All right, let's get cracking. We got lots of things to do today. Leanne will be joining us shortly. Later on, we've got Sam Cowen, who's going to be with us. Sam Cowen, of course, unbelievable. She's, first of all, a consciousness and recovery coach. Oh, yes. She's got loads and loads of clients. She's a motivational speaker. She's also a radio and TV presenter and has a number of best-selling books. She wrote From Whiskey to Water, which is a story of her battle with alcohol addiction. She also recently, we spoke to her about a book called Brutal School Ties, which is about the Parktown Boys tragedy, which chronicled the story of this guy called Colin Rex, who was the former water polo coach. That's the last time we actually had her on the show. But I want to talk to Sam about a bunch of things, including our mutual friend, Jeremy Mansfield, who is in stage 4 of a cancer, which, there's no stage 5. So we want to just find out. Well, talk about it, because I actually saw her and Jeremy yesterday, and we had a beautiful afternoon. There were a few of us, Aki Anastasiou, Alan Ford, a couple other people popped by as well, and Jeremy and Sam. It was very, very special. It was great fun afternoon of laughter and hilarity, and like just kind of reminiscing and nostalgia as well. Very, very special. So I think it was perfect timing for Sam to be on the show this morning. We'll talk to her in just a short while. Lots of other good stuff, including George Meany at just before 8 o'clock. We have the whole weekend ahead of us. Let us know what your weekend plans are. And I've got plenty of fun here in the form of voice notes that people have sent in. So I'm going to play you a couple of these. It seems that these are now taking off. These are the things that we are going to be starting the show with once we get a little bit more organization in the whole plan. But here, just give you a couple of these to take in first thing in the morning. All right.
Morning, team. Great voice note addition to the show. It's wonderful that people can now voice note instead of typing, especially while they're driving. But I don't know how crazy I am about hearing everyone else's voices.
Which is true, right? I mean, some people don't even like hearing their own voices. In fact, I know people who they won't record a voice note and then play it back to themselves. They're like, oh, no, it's in the past. Let it go. So good point.
What's up, Gareth and Tim? Chances of this voice note being played are 0 because you're playing soppy voice notes. Of course, you listen to the show, people. Of course, you love it. Of course, it's a brilliant idea. But can you say something meaningful? Share ideas, fresh ideas. Okay? This is Sanele. Thank you. Bye.
Sanele, just reprimanding all of us because your voice notes are boring, according to him. But you could hear Pumi in the background, so he's definitely listening to the show. Thank you, Sanele. It's good to hear what you sound like.
Guten Morgen, Summer. How's it from Switzerland? Love a Thursday because I get to wake up listening to Pooms and Gareth talking about something valuable.
All right.
Enjoy the show. Like and subscribe, bastards.
There we go. You like and subscribe, you bastards. There, you heard it from him, right? Don't mess around. There's some really great voice notes here this morning. I'm not going to play them all, but here's another one for you.
Morning, Gareth. It's Sharon here. I really love watching Gareth Cliff Show. I've been watching it for years now and listening when it wasn't on YouTube yet. Yes, every morning I wake up to your show and really enjoy it. Very interesting subjects. Have a great day, everyone. Cheers.
All right. There we go. There's Sharon. You got to say there's a lot of diversity going on here too, hey? I mean, if that's your thing, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so diverse. That's the most important thing about it. So diverse. I heard the most interesting thing the other day. Apparently NASA, they along with Kamala Harris, NASA in partnership with the most irritating vice president in American history have decided to launch the first ever woman and person of color to land on the moon. Because the moon has never met a woman or a person of color. So of course there's a huge, huge problem. It's a big gap in our exploration of the universe. It's not good enough that any human being put their feet there. It has to be women and people of color as well. Otherwise, it doesn't count, which is so bizarre. I mean, like, what now? Now we're going to learn something new. What are the women and people of color not human? They Neil Armstrong didn't represent them as well when he landed on the moon. Anyway, I mean, if you're into diversity, that kind of argument, we can go down that hole if you want to.
Morning. Just regarding yesterday's show, the police will never get back to where they were because there's too much tax to be made in private security businesses. They charge them tax.
All right.
So, no, police ain't
Right, you
coming
see,
back.
I played one too many voice notes this morning. That one was clearly not a good one. So apologies for that last one, but all the others were terrific. So keep them coming. I'll put the voice note number up, the WhatsApp number on the screen now, so you can also send yours. So I don't want anyone to feel left out this morning. So just in case you're feeling like you want to contribute and you have something slightly better to say than that last voice note, 071 783 6214. That is the WhatsApp line for the Gareth Cliff Show. You can obviously drop us a message anytime you want, but you can also let us know what's going on the YouTube comments. So this morning, I normally listen to the morning show on Google Podcasts, and they've been deleting your new content. Yesterday, I had a few episodes bookmarked. Today, they're all gone. This is very worrying. This is from Jackson. This is a big concern for me because we put shows on here. I don't go through them afterwards and think, well, that one was controversial, or this one we shouldn't have said that, or any. We talk like normal people talk. It seems amazing to me that as a professional broadcaster of some 20 years, I must be told by some intern at Google that the content on one of my episodes is, I don't know, offensive or against their community standards, whatever that means. So Google, if you're listening, please take this from whence it comes. You don't know the first thing about making an interesting show. You've done nothing but aggregate other people's content. That is your entire business plan. You've created nothing original. A search engine is an algorithm. You took a couple of clever engineers who are not creative people. You made an algorithm. And now what you do is you sort everyone else's content in the world, from Wikipedia to news sites to fake news sites. I mean, I can find anything I want on Google, including all the worst stuff on the internet. So you're really not in any position to be telling anyone else that their content is bad, because I can guarantee you there are a few things I could look up on Google that are probably not meant to be on the internet, full stop, and they come up number one on your searches. So you should be looking into that, really, perfecting your algorithm, not worrying about my content. The people who are looking for me know what they're looking for. And if they don't, they're in for a nice surprise. So let them get what they want and stop fucking with my content. None of your business. You're not there to be the emperor of the internet. You're there to decide whether people can find things easily or not. And if you decide to make my things less easy to find, that's absolutely okay with me. I'll still find the people I need to find. We'll do it in different ways. I'll use other search engines. But you don't get the right to delete or change content. Either you host me or you don't. If you don't want to host me anymore, then don't. That's cool. We'll find other things. Anyway, I go online to listen to older GCS shows when I feel nostalgic. Oh, by the way, I just want to go back to Jackson's comment here. So, Jackson, what I can suggest to you is either get an iPhone and go onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify, dude. I mean, that's probably the best advice I can give you. Simpiwe, our own Simpiwe in the studio, says, oh, wow, you guys don't sound anything like I would have expected. Well, yes. I mean, it's as I said, you never really know what someone sounds like until obviously you hear these voice notes, and to hear voices like Sanela's, who we talk to almost every week. It's quite cool. Gary Funnevolt just wants us to remember to like and subscribe. So he's mentioned an air fryer. Thank you very, very much. I go online to listen to the older GCS shows when I feel nostalgic. Well, there we go. There are a couple of those online. We've been doing this 8 years, so there should be quite a a reservoir now. Moonchild says, stuff Google Podcasts and any other fact-checking platforms that think they can censor content for their own agendas. This is happening all over the world, I'm afraid. It's the last gasp of a desperate leftist movement in the United States to control a narrative around humanity and where we're going and neoliberalism and all of this stuff. And I don't want to sound like one of these crazy crackpot conspiracy theorists, but it does feel to me like they're just desperate now. They're just shutting down everything they can because they can't even countenance an argument with these points of view. So let's just rather shut it down. And you know what? Derek says maybe it's time for a subscription. Look, it'll have to be a lot worse for me to actually build a cost in for you as a listener. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. Plus, of course, I'm well aware of the fact that when I say we want you to subscribe, maybe 10% of the people who listen to this podcast will actually subscribe. And don't pretend you're one of those people who's like, oh, take my money, because I don't believe you. I'd much rather keep the business model that we've got going and build on that. And there are lots of people who are understanding more and more the value of podcasts. And we're the best podcasters in Africa in terms of our experience, the clients we've served, and so much else. So come to us. And if you've got businesses that know, you work for a business that knows something about something, you want to advertise to a bunch of people, you want to do things differently, you want to think forward instead of backwards, then come and talk to us. That's how you can help me make money for this business so we can keep doing the best content possible. And then, if I'm working with great clients, I don't have to worry about trying to get money out of you for listening. Because that, to me, there are ups and downs, but to me, there are more downs at this point. Michael says it's that petty socialist reporting you in all the episodes to get back at you. Is that you mean the dude who was on Reedy's show that's that I called a petty socialist? Okay. Gijs says, my drives are a lot more boring now. I felt so guilty not commenting. Now I listen live in the mornings and I have nothing to listen to when driving. Well, you can't have everything. Make up your mind, Anyway, I've got lots of other good things that we've got to get to this morning. I want to talk about this oldest African dinosaur ever, which they found unearthed in Zimbabwe. Now, I thought Robert Mugabe was dead and that they were going to leave him alone and let him rest in peace. But they've clearly dug him up. That's what that story's all about. I mean, in some ways, I kind of miss him. He had a bit of character, This new guy, you never hear from him. I wonder if the Zimbabwean people are okay with this, that they've dug up their former leader. Anyway, the Leanne will tell us more about that later on. DJ Fresh once said, I could broadcast from a cave and my people will find me. I found Gareth's cave. I'm still looking for Fresh's cave. Okay. All right. Ges says, oh no, hang on. We've done that. Let me go to these quickly. I've got a couple of other things here I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, here's Leanne Mole. Hey, ass. What happened?
It's one of those mornings.
She says, teasing her hair out. What's happening?
Hi.
Did you have a rough start to the day?
You know what? I know I always have something to say about how the week's gone. Last time I spoke about how the week went, it was that woman who lambasted me about not doing my job. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. It was very
unfair. So this time, I've been sans laptop because.
Oh shit! What happened? Did it break?
No, it was just one of those accidental spillages. When you spill a little bit of liquid onto the keyboard and then it fucks out completely. So that's what happened with my laptop. So for the whole week, I've had to go to my brother's house to use his laptop. And you've got to remember, I cannot tell you how many passwords you actually need in your life.
On a daily basis? Are you kidding? I have to fill in, and I don't know if it's just me, but I feel very sorry for myself because I have to. One of the most irritating things, look, I know these are first world problems, but one of the most annoying things in the whole world is all of my devices keep asking me for my Apple password every day. All right. Now, I've tried to enable this two-factor authentication thing. That doesn't help. So it pops up on the screen, whether it's on the phone or the iPad or whatever else. constantly asking me for my password, and then I'll enter it properly. And sometimes it says to me, "Oh, you've been blocked out of your account. We're going to have to send you an email." Then it sends me an email. I type in the same old password, and it then lets me in. And I'm like, why do I have to go through this rigmarole every day? If you guys just took that away, I'd be the biggest fan. Don't give me some update of iOS that I don't know or don't need. Just give me just take away the stupid password thing that I have to enter every 5 minutes. I'll be thrilled. You know what I mean?
It's so annoying. I've
Yeah.
never had to remember so many in all my life. I mean, I have a document with all my passwords on it, and I actually looked at it the other day, and I thought there must be about 10 different passwords.
Wow, there's a lot of hackers who'd like to get hold of that.
Oh, my Lord. Anyway, so, and what was interesting is that the last time this happened with my Mac, went to the iStore and they said, they didn't even look at it. They said, because they knew that I was coming with my insurance, right? So they said, no, once you've put any sort of liquid onto the keyboard,
oh boy,
you can't recover anything. You have to buy a new one. Because I was coming along with my 47,000 Rand piece of insurance, right? So they saw.
Hang on, did you willingly and purposefully mess?
Not willingly, no.
But I mean, so was it? What, did you have a gin there next to the laptop? How did it happen?
Just, sometimes I put my gin into a wobbly glass. At the bottom, the glass isn't very stable,
Yeesh. Thin at the bottom and much.
Sometimes you put it down like that by mistake, and then it just topples over. So Mac sees you coming with this shining 47,000 Rands worth of insurance. And they say, well, once you've put any tiny bit of liquid onto your keyboard, it'll never work again. You'll have endless problems, they say.
Yes. No, in South Africa, we actually have a term for this. It's fucked.
Oh, yeah?
People say, no, I mean, like if your lawnmower breaks, I don't know if you've ever had, more than one gardener, but every gardener I've ever had says, she's fucked. Then I have to take it, it must be thrown away. It's fucked. So that's the term we use. It's an actual dictionary definition term in South Africa for some piece of equipment that no longer works.
You can use it on insurance forms.
Yes, you can.
When my parents moved into a new place after 25 years and took their gardener with them.
Yes.
My mom said, Marcelina, what do you think? And they'd moved to this property with these ancient, 50-meter tall trees, oak trees. It was beautiful. And said, Marcelino, what do you think about the garden? And he said, the house is nice, but the garden's fucked.
See, exactly. This is how we explain these things.
So anyway, turns out that Mac can this it's called Mac Shack, and I'll give them props because it's one of those places. When you think, do I really need to replace my entire laptop, or can someone fix it? It's one of those places that can fix it, which I'll give props to any time.
Is it like a hidden in the parking lot of a major shopping center, and it's run by like two guys who don't speak any English, straight out of Pakistan? Because those are usually the people who would run something like that. Or are you talking about a professional outfit?
No, something like that. These guys were appointed by my insurance.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then they're real. It's not like
they're top notch.
Listen, I think these guys who run these little operations from the basement parking are also top notch. They fix things.
Hats off.
Let me tell you, Pumi went to the China Mall I'm going to the China Mall today. I'm so excited. I've got to go and buy some things. Yes, I'm so excited. So I'm going to go and I'm going to get cheap stuff that I know if it breaks, I don't care. It was cheap. Yeah, sometimes you need to buy that. I'm always one of these people who's going on the show about, you need quality things in your life. And obviously, there's some things you shouldn't mess around and get a decent coffee machine. Don't drink the shit coffee. Why would you do that if you do it every day?
Do you get a decent one at the China Mall?
No. I'm talking about the decent stuff. So and buy decent linen for your bed, and have a
yeah.
phone that works properly. That kind of shit. You don't want to go cheap on those things because it'll be too frustrating on a daily basis to have shit come up.
Yeah.
But with stuff you don't use that often, and gifts for kids when like kids, for example, my nephews, they are so spoiled. They have every toy in the world, and they only keep an interest in that one particular toy for maybe 2-3 days at a push. In fact, if I give the best Christmas present at the end of the year, I know that mine is the best one because they keep playing with it until at least New Year. Then I've
You're so big on presents. It's very cute.
I love it. I love it. But I mean, listen, it's only a little way away. So I'm going to go. I'm going to see what they got there at the big China mall, and I'll take a look. Let's see. I'll report back Monday morning. You'll know all about it.
I once had a client who, oh my Lord, sat down with him and he said, I said to him, okay, so what's your business? And he said, well, I've got a shop in China Mall. So I said, okay, cool. What do they sell? He said, well, underwear. Okay, so I said, fine. And then I proceeded to unravel more and more what he did. Turns out he also did, at that stage, dual SIM cards. It was a thing where you could insert another SIM card into your phone for business or whatever.
Right.
Or for affairs. And I think that was more his type of market.
More for affairs, yeah.
Turns out he also had a contract with the government to build electric security fencing around their more private entities.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And also commissioned yachts for people in the South African government.
But also sold really cheap underwear. That's amazing.
Also, and ottomans covered in pleather.
Oh,
just
very good.
Everything.
Yeah. That's a wide range. Wide range. And he's a real businessman.
That's what China Mall's like. You can get like defense system securities, yachts, pleather ottomans, and underwear.
Absolutely. Yeah, please tell us what you end up buying. I never find anything, says dear Linda. Well, I'm going to look. Don't you worry. I got like a 2-hour spree that I've allocated there. I'm going with a friend of mine, and she knows her way around the place. So I'll be sure to report back on Monday. Gary says, I changed my password, and then 2 hours later, I've already forgotten it. Try to use the same password for all sites. Apple doesn't let you use the same password that you used previously, which is irritating too. But Gary, again, like the problem with that, having one password for everything, is that if someone hacks into one thing, they're going to use that password on all the other things and get into your banking.
I know.
No. So my banking password is completely different to all the others. That's one I don't mess with that. Broiled Prawn Shack says, the iStores are fucking sharks. Worst customer service. I once updated to a new OS. There was some problem. All they could do was delete my hard drive and charge me $2,500 for it. Well, that's a horrible story. Sure. Sebastian says, though, Mac Shack is brilliant. They deal with excellent secondhand goods or new Macs that are a level down from what's in the Apple Store. Yeah,
I'll give him props.
Really? I've only ever been a loyal kind of iStore customer, so I can tell you my experience has always been good. But there are always going to be stories about people who haven't had good experiences.
Mine has too, and I mean, I had nothing to lose from this. I came with the big insurance check. But the fact that these guys just...
What you should be telling us is how you get the big insurance check. I think a lot of people would want to know that.
It's easy and difficult at the same time. When you buy a new Mac or whatever it is, before you even leave the store, because Murphy's Law is that you'll be hijacked on the way home or encounter someone, insure it for the value that you've just bought it at. Yes, you're going to be forking out a little bit extra every month, but trust me, when it comes to that point where it fucks out or it crashes or you've accidentally spilled liquid on it or it's been stolen, you can phone your insurance and say, I need a replacement, and they'll say, well, you can get a new laptop for 47,000 Rand.
You see, insurance companies, this is why you should advertise with us. You just heard that conversation. That was
Yeah.
like the best. That was like the best reason to get insurance for anything. And, these insurance companies will say, "Then tell us what lead generation you create." And I'm like, oh, for God's sake, That's why, I mean, the only insurance company we've been able to do really good stuff with is Naked, because they get it.
Yeah.
They understand that it's a conversation. They understand that it's a relationship. And they also understand that cold calling people out of the blue and trying to sell them insurance is irritating as hell. And they don't do it.
It's
I
not
love
about
that.
the numbers and the statistics.
I
It's
know.
about
Ugh.
valuable stories to tell, like I've just told.
Right. See, that's what you could have had. You boring insurance companies that don't get it. Anyway, I did see that Sanlam, while we're talking about insurance companies, which is not something I had on my agenda for the morning, but Sanlam has had to explain to people why their profits are so low, because they had to pay out so many people during the KZN floods, which is interesting.
Mm.
Can you imagine how much they had to pay out, huh?
Whoa.
Serious money going out there. iFix is pretty decent too, says Sanele. I believe so. There's a China mall or a Chinatown in every city in the world. You never see a South African town in China. It's so unfair.
Goodness
right.
me. I
Jimmy
just thought
says-
of like scones and boerewors.
Scones. Are scones a South African thing?
Like Omar rusks and
Oh,
those,
Omar rusks. Okay, but not scones. Scones are English. Come on. A rusk
No, I
is
mean
South
home baked tiny Maries
Rusk.
scones.
No, man. Rusk. That's South African, but not. I don't know any South African who doesn't have rusks in the house at some point. Gareth, Leanne, please use a password manager. Hearing how you all
Yeah.
manage your passwords is probably the most tragic thing I've heard in months. All right, do me. I've tried this. I really have tried.
LastPass is one of them.
Okay, yeah. But I did it with Dashlane for a while. But they keep asking me to pay more money. And then they've got all my passwords and their things I can't get out. Eventually I decided, screw them. So if you tell me LastPass is good, but then again, do I have a subscription? Is it going to cost me more every year? Is it a pain in the ass to manage? Because I'd rather just...
I got LastPass through one of my... I sound like a hooker, but I've got many jobs. And got LastPass through one of my jobs. And then I had to remember, was it through my normal email address or was it through the jobs email? Oh, God, it's hard, guys. Sometimes we can't do life as well as you.
Well, David John says, talking about insurance companies, there's an interesting article in the Daily Maverick today about the big guys colluding on fixing premiums. Yes, and they've actually had to, I think they've got to pay a big fine. And they may be
raided offices.
Yeah, but they're going to have to pay a big fine. LastPass was apparently hacked a couple of weeks ago. Had source code stolen by a developer endpoint. See, this is what bothers me. Thanks, Case.
Oops.
All right. Let's look at some stories in the news. It is past. All right, Leanne, do you want to know about these new coins that are coming? Because apparently, and I wish we had Rail from the South African Gold Coin Exchange.
Yeah.
On to tell us, because I mean, he'd probably know more about these coins than any of us.
Yeah.
But let me tell you. Let me give you the basics of this story. Apparently, we're going to have new coins with the word South Africa on them in all the official languages. Now, doesn't that just make the money more valuable? Because if there's one thing I've known for the longest time,
it's going to have to be a very big coin.
No, well, no, different coins are different language. But the fact is, until we had it in CPD, obviously that's why our money was so worthless. Now, I wish that our government would spend money on things that mattered. There isn't a single person who speaks one of our 11 official languages in this country who doesn't know what South Africa is. And why are we bothering to confuse everyone from overseas when they think 5 Rand is different to 5 Rand because there's a different thing written on it? Is that necessary? Is this necessary?
Or do you wake up one morning going, gee, I wish that my language was on this coin while I go and buy my essentials for the family?
Well, look, I mean, there are countries all over the world that change their coins. So I'm not going to go down this. I'm not going to beat a massive offensive out here. I mean, let me just get to the point. The thing is that these 11 official languages will be rotated out annually over the next 10 years. Although the statement didn't go into details, it said the language changes were part of the soon-to-be introduced fourth decimal coin series. The changes are significant. It'll only be the fourth time since the South African Mint started pressing its own coins back in 1961 that it introduces a new series of coins. The country is currently using the third decimal coin series, which was introduced back in 1989. So the new coins.
So you're telling me that there've been meetings, there've been actual get-together meetings, Zoom meetings, Teams meetings about these coins while the country's falling apart because of other issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what is interesting, I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but that they don't even bother with the 1 cent coin anymore. They stopped making that 2 cent coin. They've stopped making. So they've even stopped now, even the 5. So now they're only going to make 10 cent, 20 cent, 50 cent, 2 rand, 5 rand. So then it's not like we're suddenly going to get a 10 rand coin or something exciting. No, they're just going to change the language on it every couple of months. It's so unimportant. It's not like have you heard like, Tswana people complaining bitterly that they couldn't understand what's written on the coin? Have you ever heard that? No.
No, because they've got worse things to deal with in their lives.
God, I know. Like, how about you work on the value of our currency, government? Because this all was approved by cabinet, right? So they approved the dimension, the design, and the compilation of the coins. Images were not released, so they're not even going to let us see them first. But it doesn't matter. Don't you guys get that it doesn't matter? It's like they're going to rename Cradock, apparently, okay? Now, Cradock is not a city that anyone in South Africa gives a fisherman's fuck about. No one is sitting up going, oh, you know, that the name of Cradock, it's just got to change. What it is this is a government Cyril Ramaphosa has done nothing. The only significant thing that he's done as president is to shut the economy down and create vast unemployment and make everything much worse for us over the period of coronavirus. That's all he's done that's any good.
And now change the coins and Cradock's name.
Right. So now he's like sitting there going, oh, well, shit, we got to do something. We've been sitting in these meetings, guys, all year talking about shit. So why don't we change the coins and let's find 1 or 2 cities that we haven't made unpronounceable for foreign tourists yet. That's a good idea. So that's what they're going to do. And let me just again ask all the people who thought that this was such a great idea to rename things and to reissue coins that we've already got. I mean, we don't need new coins. This is costing money. Everybody who thought that was a good idea, especially the politicians, because I can't think of anyone else who would have thought it was a good idea. Let me ask you this. Has anything materially changed to improve your life as a result of the name Gqeberha, for example, in PE, which no one uses? I've never heard anyone in PE, and I have been there since the name change. No one has said, that's what we call it. No, they still call it Port Elizabeth or PE.
No, they only use the name in jest.
What a lot of shit. Really, I mean, these guys must think we're stupid, these politicians. Nobody cares. Anyway, imagine
we're paying for their flights to go down to Gqeberha and make these changes.
Exactly. Human Shield says, imagine our car guards not accepting Afrikaans coins or only accepting Zulu ones. Government love confusing people. See what they did to PE? I can't pronounce the name properly. I'm not even going to try. You see, that's my point. Carl says, can you please get Gord on to sing the Ront Cent Man song? Yeah, well, we've got to get that back again. Decimal down, the Ront Cent Man. Don't you remember we found the song?
Yeah, I thought about Gord this morning, actually.
He's going to be on next week, actually. So there's something to look forward to. There you go. You see, you asked me to do something, Carl. I've just organized it right now. Gareth, after Hunt's Stratum was changed to Malibongwe, only when that happened did my life really get on track, says Carl. Yeah, of course. See, that's the point. Oh my God, it's dumb. It's just so dumb. Nothing. The last time we had anything new built was when Thabo Mbeki was president, and he and Mbazi Mashilowa put the Gautrain in.
Oh, yes.
That was the last time we had something done. Just
something
think about
useful.
It. Everything else has been private enterprise. Everything else. Every building you see on the horizon, private enterprise. And the rest is just government spending our money on dumb stuff like changing the coins. in 11 languages. Like, that's what we needed. That's going to improve the value of our currency. Why don't you just stop interfering in stuff that's got nothing to do with you? We would prefer you to sit and do nothing in meetings. How about that? We will pay you the money we already pay you because we don't have a choice. And you just do nothing. That would be great. Anyway, I said it would be no politics Friday. I lied. And it's not my fault. That was in the news. And who
No,
knew?
exactly.
The coin story would get us so fired up. The Hawks have restored. The Hawks have recovered stolen diesel worth more than 1.7 million rand on a plot near Heidelberg after they arrested 3 truck drivers. Apparently, the truck drivers were arrested on Saturday after one fuel tanker arrived empty at the Transnet diesel depot in Nigel. 2 other tankers arrived with diesel volumes that didn't match those on the delivery papers. These guys are getting clever. So what they were doing is they were apparently taking this stuff off to a plot in Spaarwater in Heidelberg. Of course, we know where that is. On Wednesday this week, where the stolen fuel from the 3 tankers was recovered, it was put in other containers. A silver Ford Ranger that reportedly escorted the tankers to the plot was seized. It will now form part of a preservation application as it was involved in the commission of a crime, as well as a stash of cash that was found concealed in the house. These criminals are getting smart, but it seems that they are able to catch them. So that was good news. Well done to the Hawks. That's very good news.
I kind of think well done to the criminals.
You're on their side.
Yeah.
Twitter has announced the testing of an edit button. Remember, this is something that Elon Musk threw into the mix when he was going to take over. So
yeah,
since Twitter's inception in 2006, users who are prone to mistype have been begging for an edit button, and it seems they'll soon be able to do that. The company tweeted on Thursday it was testing out a new edit feature. Do you care about this, Leanne? Will it make your life easier?
Yeah. Again, the only reason I use social media is for my clients. So many times I've crafted this wonderful tweet with hashtags and with tags, atting the right people, putting in the right link, the right spacing, and sticking to the character limit, crafting a beautiful image.
Yes, you finessed it beautifully.
And then I've missed out like an Anne or something. Have to delete it and start again.
Oh no. Okay, so the edit button will help you. I don't know how many other people are excited about this. I don't really care. I haven't tweeted since 2014, so it doesn't make any difference to me. But let's see if it makes a difference.
They're always keeping us on our toes. Facebook has just changed its kind of format of what your profile page will look like. Not your profile page, but your business page. But it now means that you have to go in and whatever you've written about your business, where it says about,
yes,
the character limit's now reduced. So all of a sudden you go to it and it's only got half of a sentence on there.
Oh, wow. That's very clever.
You've now got to go and re-edit everything.
Are there only a certain number of characters now because they've given you more in the actual the tweet? They have to take some away in your about bio.
Yeah. Sorry. You can no longer say, I'm a business that sells feathers and magical things. It just goes, I'm a business that sells fe.
I like that. All right. Okay. Well, Twitter, very excited. They say this is a huge move in the right direction. There are some users. I love this. They always go some users, but they never say who, because I actually want to know who the people are. Listen to the sentence. Some users have expressed enthusiasm at being able to fix those minor. Like, show me. I defy you. Who wrote this article? This is from Eyewitness News.
Whoever wrote it, interviewed the guy in the parking lot.
Keely Goodall at Eyewitness News. Please tell me who you met that was enthusiastic about Twitter. The word you used is they expressed enthusiasm. I want to know who that person is. Like, oh, yay. Oh, boy. I'm going to be able to edit my tweets. This is so great. What great news. I can imagine. Anyway, fix those minor slip-ups after a tweet has gone live. Others argue that it will cause more harm than good. Now, who are those people too? This will cause more harm than good.
Well, because if someone like Trump tweets, although he's not the type of person who would change what he'd said,
Mm-mm. Every
But it's
tweet
so
is
that people can
perfect.
change things
I've
and they'll be
never,
legal.
I've never made a mistake. Every tweet is
Yeah.
perfect. Kafefe. Do you remember Kafefe?
Yes. Oh,
Mm.
Lord.
And then it became a meme because he obviously made a mistake, but Trump doesn't make mistakes. So then what happens? Everyone on the right's like, well, this is a real word. People are so dumb. Anyway, I just can't believe anyone would be as excited about this as they are. Then they took some screenshots. Here's someone who says, edit button on Twitter will literally ruin its legacy. People can easily manipulate their old and problematic tweets and wash their sins. So this person is at 4 overthrows. This is obviously someone who spends their entire day trying to find other people's bad tweets so that they can get them canceled from the internet. This person should be burnt at the stake like Joan of Arc. You know what's problematic, honey? You are. You have no sense of humor. And the fact that you want to go around like the Inquisition, finding people's old tweets that are problematic and then ruining their lives, their sins, supposedly, because they have opinions that you don't actually agree with. You are exactly the kind of person that we need to expunge.
Oh, Lord. It's supposed to be a fun space for some people,
No,
most
not
people.
for this woman. Not for this person. No. Everything is hugely important. Bob Schwartz, who's got a Ukrainian flag, says, I must be simple, but I thought we all wanted an edit button so that we could correct there to there. So there's a spelling.
Oh, imagine we could propose edits to other people's tweets. Oh, the editor in me just got a poozle.
Oh, that's exciting. But it would have to be on grounds of grammar, right? It wouldn't be on their opinions. It would have to be on grounds of grammar.
Yeah.
So if you could go in and you could actually make a little star, like how teachers used to correct your work with a red pen. And then Kristen Cleveland says, an edit button. My wildest dreams have just come true. Kristen, are those really your wildest dreams? And Kristen, have you ever found happiness, my child?
Yeah,
have you ever discovered anything that made you smile? That brought
spend a Saturday night at my house, and I'll show you a few things.
Oh, Leanne, that sounds exciting.
Oh no!
Unbelievable. These people who get, it's like you see, I suppose if Twitter is your world, if Twitter is the only place that anyone listens to you or the only place that anyone gives you any attention and the only place where you can actually interact with other living human beings because you're so awful that no one wants to meet you in real life, then I suppose Twitter doing anything is a huge thing in your life, right? I just wonder, what did these people, like the ones whose tweets I just read out now, what did they do before Twitter came along? Like where would they, who would they talk to? Who would listen to them? Where would they ever get any like screen time, FaceTime?
Yeah.
Attention, love, respect. You could argue they still don't get respect. They're still searching for it in many cases. But what a thing this Twitter is that it's done this to our lives. And there are people who are like their entire worth is housed in Twitter. Everything about them that matters, that has value, is in their tweets. What a life. Wow.
Sure.
So good luck. Good luck. I bet you guys are so thrilled that Elon Musk didn't buy it. If I could right now, if I had billions and billions,
I wouldn't.
I'd buy Twitter right now and I'd just shut it down. I'd
buy
it and shut it down. I think it has caused more damage. You look at how during the Trump presidency, what unbelievable shit it caused, not just from him, but from the people who were responding to him. And you look at how such ugliness and divisiveness and inhumane bullshit gets carried out on Twitter daily. I think it would be the greatest gift to humankind to buy it and shut it down. Delete everything.
It's not going to make a dent in the social media scourge of our time. There'll be other ones to replace it.
I know. But it's just so, please believe me, I'm going to say this again for anyone who hasn't had the benefit of hearing it. If you want to improve your mental health right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm no Dr. Hanan, right? You can take this as an amateur opinion, but it's worked for me and for thousands of other people. Quit Twitter if you want to be happy.
Yeah.
There are about 10 people left on Twitter who are happy, and most of them follow themselves and no one
I'll
else.
tell you something. The most positive form of social media at the moment is TikTok. And I say at the moment because it could change quickly.
Yeah.
But where positive messages are being put out, that's the place to be.
Well, you know where the best place is to be? In real life. You meet real people. You actually shake their hands, give them a hug, have a conversation with them, not pick up your phone while you're having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Laugh, cry, smile. I had one of those yesterday afternoon, I'll tell you about just now, and it reminded me again. No one was on their phones. It reminded me again of what really actually matters in this world. And I asked that question of somebody who's thinking about these things. And the answer is something I was pleased to receive. So I'll tell you about that just now. But there is a world of unbelievable beauty and curiosity and depth and excitement and love and hate and all kinds of good things and some bad. But you can experience it for real in your own life, or you can choose to live through the screen. And I can promise you now that nothing, no message, no picture, no video, no emoji is ever going to be able to compare with that stuff. Ever.
Reminds me so much of a photograph that was taken by a journalist, where there was a crowd along the side of the street, watching a parade go by. And on the parade were like Lady Gaga and really, crazy famous people. And there was a little old lady in this photograph. Everyone else had their phones up and they were filming it.
Yeah.
And she was just watching it with her eyes. And she had this amazing glow on her face because she was putting it into her memory instead of trying to fit it into a frame, for everyone else to see.
To show a bunch of strangers. Isn't that the weirdest thing ever? Like, have you ever had someone come back from a holiday and they want to show you all their pictures? And you're like, oh God, this is going to be horrible. Because you weren't there to experience it. Now you've got to see all her stuff secondhand. You felt what it feels like to have to see someone else's stuff secondhand, right? When someone asks you, let's go through my old photo albums, you go, oh God, I need to get out of here. No one goes, oh yes, let's do that. So you know how that feels. So why would you think that anyone seeing your stuff on social media is going to feel any different to that? And by the way, I was at a party the other night. I told you I went to this party that ended up being quite a bash, I think I told you on Monday.
Yeah.
The best thing about it was I don't think I checked my phone anywhere from 9 until, 1 in the morning. But there were these two girls there who were taking non-stop selfies, non-stop the entire night, like the whole fucking time. I promise you there was not I turned around and there was this other mate of mine there and he said to me, look at that. And I said, yeah, they're quite good looking. He went, no, look at what they're doing. They've been doing this for an hour. And I hadn't noticed. And then, of course, now once someone points it out to you, that's all you see, right? So every time I'd look at them, they were busy with this phone. They brought a charger so that they could keep doing this the whole time. I swear to God, you must have a 5,000 gig phone to have stored the number of photos that they took in that night. And this is what they do every time. This is their whole lives, is taking pictures to show strangers.
I mean, if you think about it, would you rather sit down with a friend that you haven't seen in a while and look at their photos on their phone from an overseas trip? Or would you rather hear one story about a phenomenal experience they had at a cafe and something strange that happened in the bathroom with a stranger? I'd rather hear the story.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. It just seems so obvious to me. I mean, this is not controversial. This is not, and I know that things have changed. I'm not one of those people who, if you pick up your phone at lunch, is going to go, ooh, that's a bit rude. I don't give a damn. I know people are busy. I know that there are important conversations going on your phone. I get that, like work and even, your marriage, your relationships, your friends, whatever it might be. You're busy with all that stuff. I get it. I'm not one of those purists who thinks that you shouldn't have social media and your phone on you all the time. Hell, usually, if I'm sitting in a queue or I'm waiting for something or I'm on my own somewhere, I'll pick up my phone and start looking at stuff, start scrolling, start replying to messages. I do that all the time. It's normal to do that now. I get it. But when you're with somebody, unless you really don't care about them, what on earth that is on your phone could ever be better? Or are you so disinterested in that person that you couldn't give a damn? So
Yeah.
Gelinda says, listen to this. Gelinda says, I'm currently working in the Maldives, which is probably one of the most beautiful places in the universe. I mean, the
Yeah.
Maldives, everywhere you look is picture perfect. And by the way, the Maldives, if you believe the global warming people, is not going to be there for very long. So in other words, there's a limited amount of time to take in all that beauty. And what are people doing? On their phone the whole time, she says. On the
Looking at
phone
it through a lens.
all the time. Stupid, dumb idiots. Jared says, I've started taking 1 day per week where I leave my phone alone and I just exist in real life. It's done wonders for my mental
Ooh.
health since I work online and mostly in social media during the week. That's such a good move.
Ooh,
If you
sounds
can do
good.
it. If you can do it. If you actually have the gumption and the staying power to do it, good for you. I don't know that there are a lot of people who can do that. Yonda says the best place to be is in Mavericks on a Saturday night, and you have a card wanting to be tapped out. Good vibes. Yeah, that's strippers. Well, you also can't use your phone in a strip club, so maybe that is a good place for you to go. You can't take out your phone and start photographing the strippers. They don't like that very much. I've seen them throw people out. Carl
Those
says, I'm
fussy
married.
strippers.
I'm married with 2 kids. Most social gatherings are so dreary and suicide-inducing that my phone is more interesting.
Oh
Well,
dear. Oh,
Carl, I mean, that is a
oh
horrible,
dear.
horrible statement about where
You
your
need
life
to
is. And I mean,
talking
know
about
you've got to
editing tweets. You
listen.
need
I
to
know you've
edit
got
your
a sense,
life.
I know Carl's got a sense of humor. We can judge him by his previous comments on the show,
Yeah.
and I hope that this isn't true. But if you're spending, again, maybe it's just because I was sitting with Jeremy Mansfield yesterday, and he's got limited time on Earth, and it suddenly occurred to me, he told the story to me of this guy he met on a ship when they were sailing to the Antarctic. This really unbelievable cruise. This guy said to him, how old are you now? And he said to him at that stage, he was 51. He said, okay, so maybe you got another 20 good years, right? And it turns out he has less than that, but let's say 20 good years. You work out how many years you got. He said, fine. Means you got 20 summers, 20 winters. What are you going to do with them? That's all you got. What are you going to do with them? He said, you're not going to climb Everest. You're too old for that. That's in the past. Forget about Everest. What are you going to do? And I think about this, Carl, and it drives me, like, it gives me I get itchy thinking about it. Like, here you are, and I know you're kidding, right? I know you're kidding. But if it was true that you're married and you go to dreary functions every weekend with the same people who you're bored seeing, and you're going to do that for another 10 years, that is soul destroying. Get out now. If your phone is more interesting than your real life, stop, recalibrate, and listen.
You
Because
can.
honestly,
You can.
honestly, change that, right?
But you know what? As soon as I've just proven this to myself over so many decades, and it's really sad. But as soon as you deviate from the norm, as soon as you make any big changes or try to be different, or it comes back to bite you. That's how boring and annoying
What?
life is.
Are you saying you get punished
So,
for
for
making?
instance, if this person had to leave their marriage and the kids, etc.,
No, that's
they'd
not what he's
spend.
kidding. I promise you, he's kidding.
I know. But if a person did have a midlife crisis and decide to change everything up from that situation, they'd spend more time and money in the next 20 years fighting over the children, paying legal fees, worrying about the new boyfriend or girlfriend that's come into the picture, and how
Leanne,
they'll
I'm
get
going to
on
stop
with the
you.
kids.
I'm going to stop you because you are so careful. You are like the textbook conservative, and I mean conservative in terms
Yeah,
of
no, you're right.
You are, and listen,
Harm avoidance. That's what it
bless
is.
you. You're hilarious, and you have the best stories in the world, and you are one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And I don't say that lightly, but you are super careful, and you don't like breaking the rules. I mean, you still have your own e-tag in your car, for fuck's sake. So I think you've convinced yourself, and remember, what you convince yourself becomes your reality. You've convinced yourself. Again, this is like amateur psychology with me, but I've known you long enough, and I know you're not going to be upset by this. But you've convinced yourself that wherever you make a move to stick your head above the parapet walls, you get punished. So that's what happens to you. That's what you've convinced yourself of. That's why you buy an e-tag, and that's why you don't do anything that's going to get you into trouble anymore. I mean, remember the old Leanne who used to go out and get hammered on a Tuesday night and like come in late to do the news on Wednesday morning and like
came in late
smile.
this morning.
Yeah, well, there you see, you're already breaking the rules. You little rebel, you. But you see, like that's don't convince yourself of nonsense like that. You have if there's anything that you know for sure, it's that you could change your mind right now about stuff that you're unhappy about. You could change it right now. You do not have to be unhappy.
I feel like there's going to be a ticker scrolling on the bottom with where we can donate money to this motivational speaker.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe we're going to need to do that if Google keeps taking down interviews I do with Larry Elder and things like that. So this is a good point from Tracy. It's not just 20 summers. It's going to be 20 years of awkward family gatherings. I'll take dreary over awkward anytime. See again, but you weigh it up. Like if it's not worth it for you, don't do it then. And then don't complain because you've made a decision. You've made a choice. I don't want to hear you moan about it. And I know, I mean, here Carl says I'm obviously kidding. My phone is only more interesting from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. weekdays. Like and subscribe. Thanks, dude.
Nice, Carl.
And Steve says, that is the cuckest thought, thinking how many summers you have left. Yes, but I mean, you got to think about this, even when you're young. Because I was 20 and I thought, 28, that's so old. By 28, I'll definitely be married with 2 kids. And clearly, I was not. That's what I thought. I remember being at varsity. We used to sit around between lectures, and I mean, what between lectures? Or
during lectures.
We wouldn't go to lectures. What am I talking about? I had this conversation with someone the other day. I can't believe I've never really spoken about this on the show before, so this will be an interesting revelation. A friend of mine is doing her doctorate. Okay, she's doing a PhD, which is amazing. She's very clever. And she sometimes condescends to listen to the show. So I'm going to say, hey, Caro. So she's very clever. She listens to the show occasionally. That's not why it makes her clever, though. She's doing this PhD. And she said to me she went to varsity. So we started talking on this friends group of ours. And I remember, certainly on Tuesdays and Thursdays, my friend Charles and I would go. I'd arrive at varsity at about 9, even though my first lecture was at 7:30.
Oh, they did start early, didn't they?
They started early. I'd arrive at 9. So those 7:30s were never in the picture. They were never going to happen. It didn't matter what they were. It didn't matter. I mean, I didn't care about anything. I was not going to be there for the 7:30 lecture. So then I'd meet Charles and we'd go for breakfast at like 10. Nice, easy breakfast around 10, right? And then we'd sit at what was then the news cafe in Hatfield. And we'd get the newspaper. And we'd go through the whole newspaper. We'd talk about stuff. It was fascinating. That was the real university for me. And we would laugh and we would have tequilas. And then I'd suddenly look at my watch and it was 3 o'clock. No, sir. And I'd look at my watch. It was 3 o'clock and I'd go, shit, I haven't been to a single lecture today.
It's so true. Which is why you're a successful lawyer today.
Yeah, that's why I was admitted as an advocate at the High Court. No, I mean, there are people who really worked hard at university, and God bless them. We need them. We need doctors. We need lawyers. We need engineers. Okay, maybe we don't need lawyers. We need engineers, doctors. We've got good people in this world who can concentrate. And I'm not one of them. Varsity for me was a total waste of time, and I know because I had to pay my parents back for every course that I failed, and there were a lot of. Yes, They made me pay them back, and it was right.
Did
that
they make the others? You being the oldest?
No, you see, I didn't get my law degree. My siblings were much more dedicated than me. They got their degrees. They didn't have to pay for anything.
I'd
But
still be bitter about that.
I'm not bitter at all. It was the best thing they could have done for me. I do not have a law degree. I'm very pleased I don't have a law degree. I have loads of law friends because I studied with them. Some of them are still among my best friends in the world. But I did not go to those lectures. And every minute I spent talking shit with Charles and the big-titted waitress at News Cafe was worth 10 lectures. I maintain. That big-titted waitress went on to marry some TV guy.
Oh,
She was
really?
she was very hot. She was lovely. And she would bring us like tequilas and coffees, and we'd read we went through the whole newspaper virtually every day, and we would have opinions, and we would talk each other stupid about economics and philosophy and politics and science, and it was fascinating. It wasn't a waste, but it was a waste of my parents' money, and I paid them back for it because every cent of spending time out of those lectures was worth it in my money. That's what I thought. Have I bored you to death?
I'll be back now.
Jeez, she just leaves.
I lost this.
What is that?
I lost my charger.
Oh, I thought it was a toothbrush. I thought there was
What?
the weirdest. It looked like, well, you held it up and it looked like a toothbrush. Anyway, hey, look at the time. It's 7:05. We got to take a break.
Ooh.
Sam Cowen will be joining us shortly. That's going to be fun. Stick around for a whole lot more next.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Okay, so in Moscow, it's you get a hefty fine if your car's too dirty. So if it's too dirty,
I think that law should be in South Africa.
it should be everywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Like, I think it should be a law against the inside of the car being dirty.
Yes, I saw a crazy car this past weekend with that exact problem. In France, everyone by law is I was going to say commissioned, but you're required by law to carry a breathalyzer.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Every time you listen to that 80s show, Tom Cruise lives another 10 years. Every Friday on CliffCentral.com, Paolo and Dory review movies, reminisce about old songs, remember childhood places that are now car parks, and say some outrageously rude things about Patrick Swayze's brother. That 80s show, new episode every Friday, live or as a podcast on CliffCentral.com.
Every time you listen to that 80s show, Tom Cruise lives another 10 years. That's that's so great. All right. Just before we get to Sam, a few things in the comments. I don't want anyone to think I'm ignoring them. Boiled Prawn Shack says, My aim was to be married with kids by the time I was 30. Well, I'm 39 and none of that has happened.
Lucky you.
Well, it's some people are very happy that they had kids. Martel says, you remind me of classmates that I'd only see during semester tests and exams. I also studied at UP and I remember that news cafe. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Moonchild wants to know what happened to your friend Charles. What's he doing now? Running a multi-million-dollar business, or is he on the street? Well, actually, he has the highest IQ of anyone I've ever met. And we both went and did our tests together, and he came out with like some incredible, unbelievable number. And they actually did the test again with a different IQ test, and he came out with, again, the highest score they'd ever measured. He's one of the smartest people I know. And he's actually living in Dallas now, but he's worked for all the big consulting firms. I think he's working for a new business at the moment, but it's like a transnational North American thing. He's incredibly clever and very successful. So any time spent with him was worth it compared to like boring, dreary law lectures. Anyway, we got a much more important thing to do this morning, and that is to be joined again by the terrific Sam Cowen, who's actually in the studio. Listen, isn't it ironic? You're in the studio, and I'm at home, and Leanne's at home. Like, you're the only one who's actually working, Sam.
Because at my age, it is easier for me to get in my car and drive 4.5 minutes to the studio than me to spend half an hour to work out how StreamYard works.
That's about right. So the last time we had Sam on was to talk about one of her best-selling books. She wrote the Parktown Boys tragedy called Brutal School Ties. And we talked about that. What a terrible, terrible story that was, but something that needed to be told. Have there been any follow-ups, by the way? Because that was riveting stuff.
So the hostel is now back under the auspices of the school, which is very bad news. No, nothing's changed at Parktown Boys. Nothing has changed.
Oh, really?
Boys. So, but things have changed in other schools. People are having more conversations now, and that I think is what needs to happen. And people are talking to their kids more. So when they come home bruised with no underpants, or come home with none of their clothes and just exhausted and tearful, they're asking them what is going on. It's this code of silence can't continue.
Sure.
Jeez.
Wow. Unbelievable it's just some stuff just gets brushed under the carpet, huh? It's like certain things are just not the outrageous things that people think they would be.
No. So a mate of mine, Dion Wiggett, who wrote My Only Story, his books have definitely forced some incredible prosecutions. And there's going to be a lot more in the pipeline. So stuff he has done, there's been real action taken. But schools are still a place of silence.
I got to say, Dion Wiggett, since you bring him up, has an incredible podcast series too, which has won awards. It's absolutely terrific. And again, just illustrates the power of his stories, but also how useful it is to be able to convert these things into podcasts. Really good work. And you and Dion Wiggett are actually very you good friends, and you spend an enormous amount of time doing jigsaw puzzles, which is the most dreary thing I've ever heard in my life.
Because you don't know how to go about it.
Listen,
so jigsaw puzzles are.
They're telling me they want to change your mic.
Oh, that's why she keeps coming in. Shame, she's so lovely. Come along.
Who's Simpiwe?
She's sort of she's been waving and like she's sort of waving a mic, and then two books arrived on the table.
Oh, okay. Well, while they're busy fiddling with your mic, Leanne and I will just chat amongst ourselves. Let me remind everybody that Sam is now a consciousness and a recovery coach, which we'll talk about in a second. Also, a motivational speaker, a radio and TV presenter, obviously. I mean, radio and TV presenter. We say that like it's a throwaway thing at the end of her bio, but she has been part of arguably one of the most successful radio shows in South African history, along with a man called Jeremy Mansfield, who I had the pleasure of spending the afternoon with yesterday. Sam invited a few people. Apparently, Jeremy drew up this list of people he wanted to see or people he didn't want to see.
I was going to say, more like he didn't
Sam
want
gave
to
him
see.
a list. Sam gave him a list, and then he literally ticked off some people and crossed off others.
Good.
So we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second, because it was a very happy afternoon spent mostly reminiscing over all kinds of funny and ridiculous stuff that we've done in our careers. And she's written, apart from her book, Brutal School Ties, which we touched on just a moment ago, well, I think with that book, touched on is probably the worst possible way to refer to it. She's also written a brilliant book called From Whiskey to Water, which is the story of her own battle with alcohol addiction. I had a drink with Aki Anastasio yesterday, and I tried very hard to get Sam to have one, and she just wasn't having any of it. So she's absolutely on the path. She's sticking to it. She's not going backwards. She's not relapsing. In fact, I think part of her coaching is probably helping other people to stay that course, which is extraordinary. So, are you back on the mic? Let's just see. I think you're on mute now. Let me unmute you.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got to unmute yourself. See, technology is still your problem. Yeah, just turn on.
There we go.
All right, sorry, because you were busy reacting, and it was all facial features and expressions, and none of the
radio. Great on podcasts, yes.
Yeah, great on podcasts. All right, so Sam, just tell us quickly, because I said a lot there. First of all, your coaching, how does that all work?
So coaching is about moving people forward. So you can go to see a psychologist, and a lot of us have, and some of us should some more, and that'll tell you how you got to where you are now. But coaching is to move you forward. So it's about saying, well, what do you want? And people say, oh, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. And I go, yeah, and it's awful, but what do you want now? So it's about saying to people, look forward. And so often you'll hear people say, oh, I can't say no, or I never meet the right man, or I never have any money, or I've given up on life and nothing good ever happens to me. And it's like, well, what are you doing to make something good happen for you? And it comes with tools and homework.
I hope you're charging a lot of money for this, because to hear other people's fucking problems all day would drive me up the wall.
Do you know what? It's actually fantastic. It's fantastic because it's different all the time. And people have to come up with commitments at the end of each session to give themselves assignments to stick to the promises they've made to themselves, right? So I can say this, I can tell this story because of where we are. I had one client who had been going through a dreadful time. He had terrible grief, lost both his parents in a horrific way. And he'd really felt very lost and very sad. And he'd gone into quite a drug spiral. And I said to him, well, what makes you happy? What sort of things did you do before this to make you happy? And he said, I used to masturbate a lot more.
Oh, well.
So I said, well,
okay.
What's stopping you now? I mean, not now. So he said, actually nothing. So some people's assignments are, I'm going to walk around the block twice. Some are, I'm going to take
What was his assignment?
His assignment was to masturbate whenever he felt like it, at least twice a week. He gave himself the assignment. I didn't write it up.
I think this is amazing, because you see, a lot of people don't need a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they don't necessarily need a fitness coach or any of that stuff. They need a life coach. They need someone who can help them with. And you've got this vast experience. I mean, you're a mom of 2 kids who are so grown up now. It makes me feel old. You've stayed in a happy marriage, which is in this day and age an enormous achievement. With the same man for your entire life, which is unbelievable. You've had a varied and interesting career where you've met all kinds of incredible people. And I want to just quickly get to the Jeremy part of the story here, because I was really moved by a little get together you arranged yesterday afternoon. And we know that Jeremy's, he's got limited time. He's stage 4. There is no stage 5. He's an incredibly talented, brilliant human being who I think many South Africans have over the years looked to for, a laugh, a smile, a cry, even an incredible guy, a really, really incredible guy. And someone who I think if we could all donate, 5 minutes of our lives to him, everyone would, if you could crowdfund time, and he would probably live forever. But it's an incredibly difficult thing to go through. And he's just handling with such aplomb. And I mean, I know you are a big part of this, and you never talk about yourself, but you've been more than a friend in all of this. You've been there every step of the way. And I know he has other people who care about him tremendously. But you're helping him kind of do the most elegant and graceful and positive exit it is possible to do. It's actually lovely to be a part of this, Sam.
So, we've worked together for 27 years, and we've been friends for a great deal of that. And when you're on the radio and you're doing a successful show, and you're right, it was cutting edge, as was yours, and you don't enjoy it. I mean, you do, but you're always looking forward. You're always waiting for the next ratings, right? And it took us a while after he had left Prime Media for us to reconnect and go, we actually like each other. It's not just on-air chemistry. We actually like each other. And so we started socializing. And it was funny because people would see us in restaurants and we'd go straight back into our old kind of, on-air chemistry. And they'd think we were having a fight. But actually, it was just how it was. And so I was still working with him a little on his YouTube channel. And then he got sick. And we had a conversation about it. And I said, what do you want to do? What do you want to do now? And he said, Sam, I've got to get my affairs in order. And then I want to follow the sun. He said, wherever the sun is, I want to follow it. And he said, will you help me? And I said, absolutely. We will find that sun. And you were all dreadful, by the way. Leanne, you don't know this, but when they arrived and he said, there's 4 things I want you to know. The first thing is there's a list. And Sam gave it to me, as you said, Gareth. And I've ticked off the people I want to see. And there's a lot more that and all of these guys, as one, go, who's not on the list?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, you don't get to know that.
Yeah.
You made the cut. And also you guys are really, what's difficult is having to give people the restrictions because obviously he is frail. So I have to say to people, this is when you can come and see him. And there's a possibility that with even an hour to go, I'm going to have to cancel it if he's not well.
Sure.
But I see how he responds to talking about the past in a really good, nostalgic way. And I think when you're going so fast in your career, literally, and I've said this to you before, Gareth, when you're going 200 k's an hour in a Ferrari with no rear view mirror, you don't get to take that time to go, wow, look at what we did and look at the fun we had. And that's come back. And I think if there's anything, if I can give anything, it's to create gatherings where those memories can come up and we are all laughing. I mean, he told a dirty joke yesterday. Gareth, that is the first time he has told a dirty joke in months. I like to think
you're such a good influence, Gareth, always.
There I am, spending a few precious moments with someone, and what do we waste our time on filthy jokes? It's outrageous.
And I'll tell you what else Gareth did. So at the beginning, Jeremy was quite emotional. He said, I need to tell you guys some things and you need to listen. So everyone leans in. And he says, first of all, this is stage 4. This is it. I don't know how much time I've got left, but I know it's not much. And everyone kind of nods solemnly and he goes, secondly, there are only certain people I wanted to see. And thank you so much for coming along and, for Sam for arranging. And so we all nodded our heads again. And he said, thirdly, I want to tell you about immunology. And so he told us all about that. And Gareth goes, oh, thank God. He says, I thought you were going to ask us for money.
He loved that, though. He laughed.
He loved it. That is the tone. That's the kind of thing we would always say to each other.
I said, well, obviously I didn't really, but it was hilarious. So
it was so funny, and he laughed. And that's
I left my wallet in the car. Just
But that's the atmosphere in which we all worked, right?
Yeah.
Where we said those things. We were horrific, but it worked for us, and that nostalgia just carried through.
Well, someone says they're a proud owner of Jeremy's book, Frot Jokes. Listen, I remembered so many things yesterday that made me very nostalgic, and I see lots of people in the comments doing the same thing. We brought up that Give Him Another Chance song, which was one of the most hilarious things. I told Jeremy, though, that it was someone who's 19 who couldn't possibly have listened to the show as an adult, remembered this song from someone else. So it's been like broken telephone down. And he was singing Give Him Another Chance, which was hilarious because that was such a thing that you guys started. Beautiful. Someone even said that yesterday, which is like a piece of language that was contributed to the South African dictionary by your show. And there's so many things, whether it's his characters that he used to do, like I mentioned Professor Wim Beekes.
Oh, my word.
Or, Frikkie Geyser, or any of these other people who were and Simpiwe, obviously. There were so many brilliant things that happened then. Obviously, it was at a time, and this is the funny thing, is you can never recreate those things because they happen in their context. And
so
it's a beautiful thing to be able to say that you lived in the era of that sort of radio.
So the great talent of Jeremy, I think his greatest talent is creating that theater of the mind. When he created a character, he was in that character. So we obviously didn't do what you can do now, where people can actually watch the show from their computers or their phones or whatever. But I would see Jeremy go into the character. Wim Beerkes had mannerisms, and Simpiwe had different mannerisms, and Frikkie Geyser had different mannerisms. And he got so involved that once we made the mistake once, we never did it again. A sponsor wanted to sponsor Wim Beerkes' recipe section. So we sold it for vast quantities of money, but we had to do recipes that all involved chicken. And, you can tell a few jokes about chicken, but ultimately chicken is the most boring meat there is. You only put it in a dish so you can flavor it with something else. And that is true. Have you ever had chicken that isn't lemon and herb? Cayenne pepper, basted with barbecues, anything. Anyway, so at the end, Jeremy and I sat down and he's like, Sam, I can't do this anymore. And I said, there's only one thing we can do. And he said, what is it? I said, we have to kill him. I said, we have to kill Wim Beerkes. So we did. So we go on there and we say, we killed him. We said, he's passed away and it's very sad. And Jeremy started to cry. And we were going, he's such a wonderful person. And I started to cry. And we mourned this imaginary person on it. And we mentioned like two of us. We had tears. And he's like,
So yesterday, someone said that there was a plane. There was one of those planes with a banner on it, flying over Joburg at some point with "Rest in peace, Wim Beerkes" on a banner. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is a person who never existed, and there was an airplane in the sky with a banner that said "Rest in peace, Professor Wim Beerkes."
And we cried. That's how into the characters we were. I mean, we told a story once. So 702. I think you were doing the breakfast show at the time, and you guys had just got a new OB vehicle, outside broadcast vehicle, and we were so cross because we were making a lot more money than you, and we had this old thing. The headphones were broken, and you had to like wedge your chair against the desk because the floor was uneven. And we're like, how come they're getting one? So we lied. We went on air and we said, no, we've got a new OB vehicle too. Because 702 was doing like the whole day from the OB vehicle. Like, well, right, we'll do our day too. So we told everyone we're in this OB vehicle, right? And we're on the highways and byways. Does anyone even say that anymore? And if you wave at us or hoot at us, we'll throw you a T-shirt. Now, we were in the studio the whole time, but people were phoning in going, guys, I'm driving next to you, I'm waving. And Jeremy stopped waving. He's like, I'm waving back at you. Sam, throw him a T-shirt. And I find myself picking up this imaginary T-shirt and throwing it out the window. The guy goes, I got it. Thanks so much. No one knew. And it wasn't a setup. People actually just bought in.
That is so great. Sylvanelle says, I grew up listening to Sam and Jeremy. You guys have a special place in my heart. So, okay, so give us the lowdown here. How is he doing? Because I can always give this third-hand information, but you actually see him all the time. So, on a physical level, he's taking a lot of strain. So, as you know, he's got stage 4 liver cancer, and it's affected a lot of his faculties. It makes him very vulnerable to getting sick because his liver is so compromised from the cancer. And so you and I might get a cold and take some Corenza C and complain to everyone we know. A cold for him is life-threatening. Mm-hmm. So he knows that, and that's an added burden. Having cancer is one thing, but to find out, you could basically pop off with a bladder infection. I mean, who wants to go that way? And yet you invited Alan Ford yesterday. I mean, that's such
stop it. And so he is frail. He gets very, very tired, and he's on a lot of morphine. And you guys talking about how he could possibly start dealing that was just hilarious. I hope no police are listening to this.
I mean, you said he's got a big bottle of morphine.
Yeah, it's like a liter.
Yes, it's
a liter of morphine.
He doesn't swig it. He has to have it. His partner Corin, who's an angel, she like doles it out. She's the handler. And some days he has really bad days. Some days, his mum died on his actual birthday, and that affected him for the entire week. He was just broken.
Alan told me that the other day, and I almost thought, no, this is almost like one of those books where you're reading it and you think, no, this is a step too far. It's just too awful to comprehend because his mother. I mean, to go through this treatment, to go through this kind of health thing. And he said something interesting. He said a lot of interesting things yesterday. And I mentioned earlier on the show, which I'm not going to repeat, that he said you got maybe a couple of summers that you have to figure out what you're going to do in a couple of winters, and you must do what you can in that time, which I thought was really valuable. But to hear about his mom too, I mean, that's absolutely awful. How did
No,
you deal
Gareth,
with
he's
that? How
lost.
did you deal
He's lost in the past 18 months. He's lost both his brothers and his
Oh
mother.
no! What?
His eldest brother, who's quite a lot older than him, he was in his 70s. He'd been sick for a long time, but his younger brother Stephen was diagnosed with cancer in January and died very soon afterwards. So this man has gone through an immense amount of emotional anguish. And with the cancer, he's been, we joke about it because you have to. So I went away down to Cape Town and he'd been quite sick. And I said to him, listen, I said, can you just be a team player in this relationship and put me first and not die while I'm away? I said, because honestly, it's going to mess up my entire holiday. It's the first time our family's gone away for more than 4 days in a decade. And can you just be a bit of a team player? And people who don't know us were just looking at me like, how can you talk to him like that? And so he's like, you're being very selfish. What if I feel like it? I was like, no, just be a team player. And it's nice because he's like, okay, so what date can I go? I said, well, you can't go on the 28th because that's when I get back. And the 29th, my daughter is going to camp on the 30th. So I have to do a lot of shopping. So after the 31st, if you could just let me know how you're feeling. And that's how he deals with it. That is how he deals with it, is to laugh and to keep chasing the time, to keep chasing the sun, to take those moments to say, listen, I do feel awful, but I want to see people.
Well, I mean, he's, you can't, there's this, ironically, a radio jingle I used to have it when, I got something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away, which I always thought was like a good motto generally. And, he's lived this incredible life. I mean, we're talking about him in the past tense, which is revolting, but, he has had, he's traveled to all six continents. He's met everyone you could possibly wish to meet, including, being adopted by Nelson Mandela as his white son. I mean, there's so many fun stories and great experiences in that life that if he lived, if most people lived 10 lifetimes, they wouldn't have those experiences. So there's something in that.
What people forget as well is he created employment. Like this man came onto the scene and I was talking to Darren Simpson about it. And he said, you know what? He said to Jim, he said, we were in the league. He said, and sometimes we even topped the league. He said, but Jim, you were the league. And he was right. He did things that no one had done. And he made jokes that, I can see on the comments here from Boiled Prawn Shack.
Yeah.
He says, I remember being in the car on my way to school when it was announced Hay Corsten committed suicide and Jeremy said someone had to. And I was so scared after he did that. I ran out the studio. We got a broadcast complaints commission. But if people remember that, and that was at a time where he just did whatever he wanted to do. And so he's lived his life, and people forget how much money he created. I mean, Robin Walsh, who was big at the time, wrote a song, Viva the Fat Man, pay him what he wants.
Yes, I remember that. when his contract negotiations came around. Yes.
Oh, my word. Those were hilarious. He used to do it on air. He used to do it on air. He used to say to people, phone in and say what I should earn. You should have seen the numbers. I was like, we could have powered a small country for several years.
Seamus McGeegan, I mean, if that isn't Irish, I don't know what is. He says people actually rocked up at the Duck and Trout in Dullstrom believing he was broadcasting live when he wasn't.
Do you know, he once sold a broadcast in France and we weren't in France. We got 500,000 Rand after one of the major banks in 1997.
That's amazing.
So about a bazillion Rand now. We were in the studio and we had sound playing of that French kind of accordion music and a bicycle. That was our entire sound bank. It was a bicycle and some French music. And we were always broadcasting from a French pub. And we didn't know what the French was for pub. So we kept saying, it's a bistro, it's a cafe, it's a patisserie. And it was so realistic that I actually got flu that week. And I went to the doctor and I got a script and I went through to the pharmacy and they said, you can't fill scripts for other people because in those days you couldn't. And I said, it's me. And she goes, no, Sam Cowen's in France.
Hilarious. Jesus, that's great.
That's what he was capable of. He was magic.
All right. So, I mean,
it's
cool. It's cool that he's doing these little things where he's seeing people and seeing them. Well, there's nothing worse than kind of this dreary, sad, depressing thing where people are sitting in a chair and they're in a home, and people are coming to see them, and it's all miserable and sad and all the rest of it. So you're coordinating all of that. Is there a lot of pressure from people who, I mean, he's only got a certain amount of energy in a day. Are you like the gatekeeper? I joked yesterday, you're like Zelda Lafranci with Madiba. You have to kind of chase people away.
So about a month ago, when he had sat with the doctors and they said, right, this is where you are now. And it was not a pleasant conversation. And he didn't want to see anyone. He knows how different he looks, and he knows that he gets confused, and he knows how different he sounds. And that's the painkillers. And he knows how much weight he's lost. He knows he's not a stupid man, and he didn't want to see anyone. He didn't want anyone to see him like that. So I was phoning people who wanted to go around and visit, going, you know what, he's too ill. And he really was. I mean, I think it would have it would have finished him. And then suddenly he did an about turn and he said, you know what? He said, I actually do want to see people. He said, and they must just see me as I am. And I said, yes. I said, because people love you. And they do want to see you as you are. And not everyone's there for the show. As in, if he's quiet, I mean, we saw some of his friends the other day slept through the entire thing. And but he would wake up every now and again, and we said to him, do you want to go home? And he was like, no. And you'd ask a question, he'd answer it. But that's how it is, And I said to him, let's treat this as though it's Mindar, and let's rack him and stack him.
Well, because
I said, but you can't turn around to me after I've organized and go, actually, I've changed my mind on that person, because I can't keep telling people that you're just too sick that day.
No,
people's noses are out of joint, and I get that, and I'm sorry. I'm not apologizing, but I'm regretful that people feel that way.
I was glad to hear from him yesterday, because I think Aki was talking about like some of the people who we've worked with that we didn't think were particularly pleasant. And I said to him, what matters? He took a long time to think about it, and then he said, "You got to look after yourself too. You've got to make some time for you." You see, he spent a lot of his life worrying about other people, helping people, that Make-A-Wish thing that you guys used to do, which was like the tearjerker of all tearjerkers, long before it became this twee thing that it is now, where you have, assholes on social media pretending to care about people. You guys actually helped a great number of people in that respect. As you say, created employment, made people laugh, improved people's day on a daily basis just by giving them something to smile about. And obviously all the people that he actually helped in his real life too. And probably didn't save a whole lot of time to think about himself. And he said, you got to do that. You got to actually save a little bit of energy and time for yourself, which is not a bad thing, because people say, oh no, that's selfish, you shouldn't do that. I mean, you as a life coach probably give people this advice all the time. They don't spend any time actually thinking about what matters to them and doing it.
So I always say to people, what do you think your best quality is? And 9 times out of 10, specifically with women, men will go, oh, I'm clever, or I'm this or I'm that. Women will go, I'm a very giving person.
Yeah.
I'm a very kind person. I go, okay, and what else? I'm always there for others. I go, okay, and what else? No, I'm very loyal. I go, okay, I asked you what your best quality was, not a golden retriever. And so many people look at me, and when one woman burst into tears, she goes, that's all I am. I said, I don't believe that's all you are. And to get people to remember stuff. I mean, I had one lady, amazing lady. She'd come out of a terrible divorce, and as is often the case, her husband's life had gone substantially better than hers. And she'd had to move from a house with a beautiful garden, she loved her garden, to a flat. And she said, I just miss my plants so badly. I said, okay, so what do you choose? She goes, well, I can't do anything in the flat. I said, you've heard of house plants, hey?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's not the same. I said, no, it's not. So what could you do about that? Anyway, she left. And she goes, I'm going to think about the house plants. I said, fantastic. She phoned me the next night. She said, Sam, I'm going to sleep in my garden. And she sent me a picture. And she'd gone and bought shelves. And every house plant you can imagine. I mean, for me, it's reasons to be a bad mother. Like, what am I going to kill today? And she had created this little garden in her bedroom. And it was a huge mind shift for her. I'm going to sleep in my garden. And it's that sort of thing. It's when you're feeling so down and so sad. And suddenly you go, hang on a minute. And if it's anything, so what does a life coach do? You change your life. I can't change your life for you. And I'm not going to try. I'm not giving you homework. You must do your own homework. If you don't do it, then don't do it. It's not going to change my life. But what I will show you is where the light switch is. And it's up to you if you choose to walk towards it.
So The real reason I brought you on, Sam, was just so that you could coach Leanne, so that I ever get cancer.
Listen, Gareth, Sam, I really admire your relationship with Jeremy and where you are now. It's a special time. It really is. But I do know that Gareth would not provide the same for me.
You say that. So when you're working on a breakfast show, you've got to, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but maybe the listeners don't know how much is about raising money. And not even for charity. Like, it is delivering prospects to advertisers. We didn't go on in the morning. I mean, look, we shot the breeze, but there was a strategy. There was a bigger strategy. Because you have to bring that money in or you're not on air. And when those ratings come in, you live and die on them. We worked on the trend. So it wasn't like one bad book and we were all on the line. But you work on a trend, and to be able to be funny and make it sound like you've literally just come to work, scratched your balls, had a fart, and carried on, while you're still making millions and hundreds of millions of rand is no easy feat. And so a lot of times there was conflict in the team, and I'll be open about that. And it was only later when you look at it and go, actually, we had some really good times. I mean, I remember Harry saying we laughed. Oh, how we laughed. And it's afterwards you look at each other and say, actually, friendship is born in that moment, C.S. Lewis says, when one person looks at another and says, you too, I thought I was the only one. And so you'll find this person at the bookshelf will be there for you. He will. You will, Gareth.
Yeah, right.
Because I know we're 4 minutes away.
Well, only if Leanne is there to wheel me around. Well, she must guarantee that.
You know it's going to be the other way around. You know. Don't lie. You've already written me off, saying that if a burglar had to break into my house, he'd think, oh, shame, her with her sleeping Jesus and her sleep apnea and all her medications beside the bed and the 4 cats on the duvet. Just shame. Just leave her alone.
I think that sounds delightful, actually.
Love my life.
Oh, well, come on. So here are some fun comments from people. First of all, what a great show today, says Sean. Thanks for sharing, and so great to see you again, Sam. You brought back many good memories from my childhood on the way to school. Thank you. That stuff matters, hey? Cunning Stunt says, my first job was at Mansfield's in Ilovo. I was a shooter girl, like in Coyote Ugly. We coined it, and Jeremy was awesome when he came in. You know, that's so good to hear, because you hear so many people bitching about, I had a waitress job and the people were so sexist and blah, blah, blah. So it's nice to hear that. Thank you, Cunning Stunt. But I'm gathering from your name, you're not a particularly sensitive person.
Hello,
all right,
Alice.
And then, hello, this is Alice. Say hello to Alice.
Oh! Alice is like, I just care about you, Gareth. Yes.
Yeah, she turned 7 months yesterday, so she's
getting so big.
Yeah. It is such a privilege to be there for someone at the end, says Tracy. Ricky Gervais's Afterlife on Netflix is such a beautiful and yet such a funny show. Except that Aki suggested it as viewing yesterday, and you and I both climbed into him and said, must you be so depressing?
Yes, let's watch lots of shows about people wanting to die when we're dying.
You know?
Yeah, right. Lighthouse Barber says, because this is the kind of cheap person that he is, I have photostats of Jeremy's recipe book from the Central Library.
You know, I looked at the word photostats and I had to think, what is that? Photostats.
Okay, I'm older than both of you. Who remembers microfiche? Exactly.
Microfiche.
Only me. Microfiche. You would go to the library and they'd give you these transparencies, and you'd go onto this computer and it was a big knob. I'm just going to liken that to somebody else.
Yes.
The big knob, and you kind of looked around. If you ever watch procedural criminal dramas from the 80s and 90s, they used a microfiche.
Yes, I do remember now.
There you go. You got to be nearly 50 though to remember that. It's privilege.
Getting there.
When are you two going to get your horn-rimmed glasses and go off to the library together?
No, I have already got glasses, and I have turned into my mother. I walk around the house looking for the glasses that are on my head. And the other day, I had my cell phone with me, and I was phoning my phone to see where my phone was. And my daughter to me, she goes, "It's in your hand."
Yeah,
but I must make you laugh. So we talk about the magnificence of radio and the days that we did it.
Sure.
My daughter is 15, so of course everything I do is extra. For the whole of COVID, I was extra. I thought it was a compliment She said, Mom, you're so extra. I was like, oh, thanks. I'm extra this, extra. Anyway, it doesn't mean that. But she said to me, she goes, wow, Mom. She goes, you were really famous. I said, I was, yes. She goes, I just thought what you did was really embarrassing.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No, exactly.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
Yeah, I
no.
often think about that because, I was talking to a relative the other day, and I said to her, your mum's fabulous, because her mum is just this most eccentric woman. You can't believe the things she says. She's outrageous, and she's always been like a very, very funny person. She's always been hilariously out of, she if everyone else is well behaved, she behaves badly, that kind of person. And I said, she's always been so entertaining. And she said, yes, but it's entertaining for other people, but not when she's your mum. Painting her hubcaps pink and that kind of thing is that's not great when you're a kid at school just trying to fit in. And I'm sure that's probably a similar situation for your daughter. Your son is already studying. He's at UCT. I mean, that makes me feel so old.
He's at UCT, 6'1".
He's a kid.
Hmm?
He's a little baby when I
he was a baby. No, he toddled into the studio. You met him. I think you saw Jen when she was a baby.
Yeah.
And they're both their own people. They're marvelous. Other moms of the same era will say to me, don't you wish they were babies again? I go, no, I hated that. I hated not being able to talk to them because for me, I'm a very verbal person. My husband was amazing. It's hungry. It's tired. It's cold. I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? And as they get older and they can talk to you, they get so interesting. And it's marvelous. Like, you're navigating some difficult ground at the moment in terms of what's important to them and what we look at and go, well, that's a load of rubbish. But actually, I've always remind myself when I think I don't understand that we campaigned against apartheid and for gay rights. And all our parents thought that was ridiculous too. And it really wasn't. And so you don't know what's going to last and what isn't.
Yeah,
but kids are smart and they think things through. And I really do think the next generation is going to all put us in a home and make sure there's no plastic in the world. They're determined they're going to save it at our expense.
I'll tell you what, when our generation does end up in like old age homes, it's going to be dangerous. That's very dangerous. So a couple of people, you two have started a whole thing now with Tracy says, do you remember a telex machine?
Oh, we had a telex machine in the newsroom.
Did you?
We did. And you would go to the telex machine and the South African Weather Bureau would send through the weather on the telex machine. I am so old, Gareth, that when the internet first sort of arrived, we had one computer in the newsroom and all of us thought that was the internet. We thought that was the internet. So you couldn't get the internet anywhere else. And somebody would come and go, where is the internet? It's in the corner there.
That machine.
I remember in the newsroom, my computer was the only one that got Word for the first time. I mean, we were writing news scripts on what? This weird sort of DOS X or whatever they were called program.
Is it a news bulletin or a project? I don't know.
This show is brought to you by very old machines that no one buys anymore. I mean, here's someone saying that they had an overhead projector that looked like a giant X-ray machine. I mean, kids don't have overhead projectors anymore. Now they've got whiteboards and the teachers got
computers.
Wait. So I was discriminated against because of the overhead projector because I'm left-handed. So when you write slides, when we used to do projects, because now that these kids do PowerPoint, and in fact, that's old. They do Google Classroom, and they do all these things that I could never have done. But we had to write our own transparencies. Now, you try writing with a Koki pen when you're left-handed. You just get it looks like a Rorschach drawing. So I had to pay people like at least 20 cents to do
Oh, my God.
Discrimination against left-handed people.
MS-DOS.
I'm so wounded.
My kids discovered my Sony Walkman the other day. They were fascinated and confused at the same time. No Bluetooth? Yeah.
Where does it draw its information from?
How does it know what to do?
Dr. Robbins says, fuck it. I remember those damn microfiche machines. They always had a weird smell about them too, like dead moths and dust.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
Sadness.
MS-DOS.
Old stage curtains at school that were folded that had never seen water in their lives.
Never.
If you unfurled them, a moth would fall out of them. Yeah.
Only the one. You were at a better school than me.
Well, Sharon says that reminds me of that episode of the It Crowd where they convinced Jen that the internet is in a box. No, okay, I don't even know what the It Crowd is, so that's how old I am.
I see Crowd.
Great TV series.
Let's stop this. This is quite enough nostalgia for one morning.
Yes.
So Sam, I will see you soon, and lots of love. And I'm sure there are loads and loads of people who will echo this when I say give lots of our love to Jeremy. And we will we'll catch up again. Are you writing another best-selling book anytime soon?
I am writing about the last 20 years of sobriety, and it's going to be called Sober Forest. No. It comes from the fact that it comes from the fact that I have a client who goes, I hate AA because it reminds me of pagans dancing around in sober forest. I thought, oh my word, that's exactly what it is. It's pagans dancing around in sober forest. So it's very funny. No. It's very funny.
Well, I mean, we have to have a conversation about that one day, because living in South Africa and not drinking means you really don't know how to socialize.
Not only South Africa, but Joburg.
Well, the Cape Townians get away with it because they live with wine. So it's almost, if you move to Cape Town, you have to drink wine. It's actually a prerequisite. And you have to start arriving late for everything. But I will leave you with this. During lockdown, when booze and smokes were banned, and Jeremy and I were still on air, we were looking at each other one day and we were saying, nobody's complaining that they can't get the booze because they're dying for a drink. And nobody wants to think about the fact that maybe that alcohol is a lot more necessary than it was. So they were saying, you know what, the tax revenue, what we are losing, all this illegal trade. I was like, who is drinking and smoking for their country?
Yeah, no one. No one.
Feel free.
Yeah. Listen, Sam, lovely to have you on, and I hope we'll see you again very, very soon. Lots of great comments here. People just love hearing from you and seeing you, and keep up the good work, and keep up with all the stuff that you're doing with Jeremy. I think it not only matters enormously to him, but to all of us too. And it's just a great thing to see. Like, this is love and friendship at the level that we should all aspire to.
And if anything, you're making Gareth feel guilty about what he's not going to do for me one day.
Oh, so sorry, Leanne, are you still alive? Thanks, Sam. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, Sam.
There's Sam Cowen, everybody. What an absolute angel. Don't worry, Ass. I'll send someone round.
It's when I first moved into where I am now, in the cottage, which used to be a stable for horses. Oh goodness, there's Sam and Paul. Good morning. The landlords came over and said, we didn't realize that you were famous.
Oh.
I said, oh, yes, we told our daughter who you were. And they said that you've even written books about children.
They thought you were Sam.
And I was still brand new, and probably a week or two late on my rent. And I went, yes,
good
indeed.
Milk it.
So they still think that I've written books about children and coaching and all sorts of things.
That's great. Keep it up. You know what I'll do? I'll pop around one day and say, no, I'm a huge fan. I just, I brought us some chocolates or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Here's George Meany, everybody. Exciting times. It's Friday when Borge is here, and I know, Leanne, you've missed out on calling him Borge for a number of weeks, so here's your chance.
Nice.
Hello,
I got the I think it was a week ago that we saw each other, right?
Yes, I was at the festival.
Not for a long time before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there he is. So, George, I sent a couple of my friends around to visit you at the Festival of Motoring. Did they pop around and tell you that I'd sent them?
Not to my knowledge. I think... no, nobody said to me, Gareth sent me.
Time for new friends. That's what I say. All right, so George, I got to say, it was really exciting, and we never know. I make a joke about this every week, but we don't actually know where we're going to see you. You sometimes in a plane, sometimes in a boat, sometimes in a car. Sometimes you're at the Festival of Motoring. How did it go? It looked like you guys had an amazing stand there.
We had probably the busiest stand, and I think the reason was we were giving away free rides in supercars. So the queue got incredibly long. We had 3 GTRs and 2 350Zs, rotating, and one 348 Ferrari. So it was incredibly exciting. There were lots of people. But, some consumers lost their shit. And, we had to really handle that delicately because they had to wait in a queue for an hour or two.
Come on.
But we said to them, listen, everyone else is charging 1,500 Rand, 2,500 Rand for a ride in a supercar. We're giving it away for free. We can't control hundreds of people coming here. So it was a little bit of a lesson.
George, that's when you need to pull out your gun and just say to them, right,
listen, people.
Shut up or I'm going to shoot you. That's what you need to do. See,
So,
George, again, no good deed goes unpunished. Here you are giving people free rides in supercars and they complain.
Well, it was the vast minority. So, you can't kind of paint everybody with the same tarred brush. But yeah, I guess no good deed goes unpunished. There were those individuals. One gentleman and his son stood in the queue, and because the son couldn't get a ride in the Ferrari and it was only the 350Z available, chucked his pass on the floor and then stormed out. But
come on.
People are so...
Put on your big girl panties.
All right. Oh, my God. Anyway, listen, well done. I mean, you probably gave a bunch of people who've never been and will never be again in one of those cars the ride of a lifetime. So, take the good and don't worry about that grumpy dad. Screw him.
Yeah, well, it was the vast majority. If it's under single-digit percentages of people that lost their stuff, it was a lot. So...
But it's funny to watch, right? And people don't have any self-awareness, so they do these things and they don't realize like how the rest of us are looking at them and kind of that's a bit embarrassing.
People lose their radar when there's free stuff around.
Yeah, that's true. And I was very proud of my team because none of the team lost their cool. They handled it with kid gloves, explained, and tried to just diffuse the situation when it did happen.
So, George, what else have you got for us this morning?
So did you know, Gareth, that decades gone by maybe, police cars, and this obviously comes from a story out of America, when a police car stopped a consumer, they would get out of the car and they would touch the boot of the car. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, and it comes through in movies as well, but it's a real thing. They touch the boot of a car. And the reason they touch the boot of a car is because, first of all, to see that the boot was closed. But the more important reason was to leave fingerprints as evidence on the car to show that the police officer was actually there.
Okay, why would they also check that the boot was closed? Is that a thing?
So check the boot was closed and then also startle the driver. So there was another thing. Don't know why they checked the boot was closed, but these were the three reasons they touched the boot of the car, mainly being the fingerprints.
I know why they checked if it was closed, because there might be a chance that Asian guy from The Hangover would come out and go, hello, motherfuckers, completely naked.
George, do they still do that?
So apparently it's still done just as a matter of course, but it's not necessary because of the police cars' dash cams and evidence is being created that the police officer was there. But the main reason was to prove that the police officer was there. There was fingerprints left on the car by the police officer.
Okay. So apparently they still do it. American cops now touch the back light, and they still do exactly that. That's what I just got a message from somebody about now. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. I didn't know it was a thing, and the reasons why. But there you go. There's the reasons why. And then we spoke previously about the dots on the edge of a windscreen. I don't know if you remember us talking about why those dots exist, and that it's reinforcement for the glass between the ceramic.
Correct.
So I don't know if you've noticed lately that the tint has disappeared off the top of a windscreen. You don't really see it too much anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of very old. It reminds me of my aunt and uncle's pale yellow Peugeot from the 80s, where it was there to kind of shield your eyes while you were driving. That lovely brown hue. around the edge of the
Yes,
glass.
yes. It was either
Oh, that's
brown,
great.
green, or blue.
Yeah, that's great. Very
Yes.
70s. Like any brown kind of glass is very 70s.
Very 70s, and a two-tone car with a brown roof and a cream body, which I see is coming back now in the Suzuki.
Oh, nice.
So this,
okay, that's what we needed. More of that.
the only reason that the tint existed was for UV rays for your eyes and to throw shade into the car so that the UV rays didn't mess up the upholstery too much. But it's largely gone away. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even notice it go away because
No.
only when I read the story did I realize, hold on a second, I actually have to go to my car to check if there's a piece of tint on the top of the windscreen.
Yeah.
I also haven't noticed. This is news to me this morning.
Oh,
Most
you
cars
guys
don't
know
have it
how
anymore.
you know how old my car is, and it doesn't have that anymore.
It's quite an old thing.
You see, they take these things away from us, George, and they don't even tell us. And then we figure it out years later, and we feel regret that we lost something that we didn't even know we'd lost. That's how it works.
So deprived.
Exactly.
And then a second to last is, I don't know if you've noticed, but when you drive past some farms, I've only seen this very rarely in South Africa, but I think it's quite a thing in America. In that there are tires on top of tarpaulins, you wonder what is under those tarpaulins. So there's a reason there are old car tires on those tarpaulins, is because they create weight on top of grass. So they put their feed under the tarpaulins, and it gets the feed through winter, and that's the reason you see tires on top of tarpaulins.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that sometimes, even here. I think you see it in certain parts of the Free State when you drive through there, that they've got these tarpaulins with tires on top of them. So now we know what it is. Just by the way,
less about the.
Sorry, I'm just going to show people a picture of what you mean. It sometimes helps to see these things if you're watching us on YouTube. And while we're on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've also got a question for you about the tinting, because a friend of mine was. What's wrong, Leanne?
And like and subscribe.
Oh, I thought you were muttering things to yourself. I thought you totally lost it this morning. That's it. Sorry about that. You haven't lost your mind. So, George, I wanted to just ask you about the tinting thing again. A friend of mine has a car with like really dark windows. You can't see anything in there. Is that allowed? Is there a certain regulation that you're allowed to have windows of a certain tint? 90% is outlawed, but 50% is okay. Like, what is it?
So on the front windows, I believe you have to have a maximum of a 30% tint. So 70% of the light needs to get through the side windows. Obviously, your front windscreen can't be tinted. That's just stupid. But through the side windows. And then I see the back windows of many cars from the manufacturer are actually slightly darker. So I don't know what the regulation is there and how much you can go, but I know the front windows you have to have about 70% of the light come through.
Okay. All right. Useful info. That's the kind of thing that we would only learn if we spoke to you about it. All right. What else have you got?
So very lastly, why is the driver's seat not in the middle of a car? And this is a very interesting answer. And it has...
Because you want your passenger to fit in as well.
Yeah.
True. Although if the driver's seat was in the center of the car, you could have two passengers on either side, right? I guess. So the main reason is the steering column. If the steering column of the car were in the center, that means that the engine wouldn't fit into the engine bay in the front.
Oh.
Because the steering column would have to go through the center of the engine. So that's the main reason the steering wheel's on the side of the car and not in the center. So if the engine's not there, the steering column can be wherever it needs to be. So I suppose in electric cars in the future, maybe we would have driver seats in the center.
But then when you get out, you have to go and squiggle your way across the seat just to get out the door.
That's also true. Yeah, very irritating. Or you could just have like a sofa in front instead of, those very old cars. I mean, there are a couple of these You know, those big American cars that they made in the 50s and 60s. They would often have like a sofa in the front. It wasn't two seats, and you'd sit in the middle of that. I suppose.
A
if you
love
could put the
seat.
steering column. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
One
that's
big
nice.
one big long seat in the front. I mean, many cars used to come with that right back in the day when they first made them. And the only reason the two seats were split really was because of the center column for the prop shaft that ran through the middle and the exhaust systems. So they raised those up into that little column that's in the center.
Right. Okay. Well, we probably do without that but if you think about single driver cars like in Formula One, for example, they can obviously put you in the middle there, and you don't need a Formula One car with a passenger seat or the steering column on the side. So they've got the engine at the back, obviously, and all of that stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes much more sense, actually. All right, George, as always, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Leanne, what is it with you and your alarms? Is that to wake you up? It's 8 o'clock.
When you've got ADHD, you need something to tell you what to do every 10 minutes.
All right, everybody, have an awesome weekend. Be good. If you're not, take photos. We will see you on Monday at 6 a.m. bright and early. Be